All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Harsh. Welcome back to another episode of Harsh Talks Hockey. We are doing playoff edition. I've got friend of the show, Abhinav, back on the show out west. We'll see how things are going out west. We'll do a bit of a first round recap because that was very exciting, obviously, and then get right into the second round because there is a lot that has happened over the last week, and I want to catch up on that as well. Um, before once we start, let's give the floor to Abhinav and give us sort of an update on how the West. We'll let you talk more about the Western Conference because I wasn't able to keep up as much, but give us a bit of a rundown on what happened in the first round in the Western Conference.
Hell yeah, let's do it. I'll save my favorite series for last because,
Yeah,
that's just the most fun. Colorado and Dallas, I think we got to start there. Just what a series, first of all, right?
magical.
Like, great. You had great goaltending and bad goaltending. And
Yeah,
Mackenzie Blackwood, who was stellar for like the first three games. A lot of people said he had a bad game five. Honestly, I think most of the team did. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, like, this was Colorado's series to lose. Like, I had them winning in five, right? Because
yeah.
they, I feel like they don't really have it like a lot of excuses because they bought at the deadline. I think we all agree they probably have the best deadline of any team. You have Nathan McKinnon
Absolutely.
and Kale McCarr, right? Fun
Yeah.
fact: Evan Bouchard, by the way, has better playoff numbers than Kale McCarr does. Just say,
Wonderful to hear.
it's true, it's true, it's true. Oh
Yeah.
no, jokes aside, right? They upgraded their goaltending and they just lost, and the way they lost too, to the guy they traded scoring a hat trick in the third period of game 7. Like, you can't write Hollywood scripts as good as that. So just I think that was the best series easily.
Game seven, I believe it was a Saturday night
Yes,
on
Saturday night.
ABC, national broadcast down in the US.
Yes, it was
You
beautiful.
can't, third period comeback of all people, Miko Ranton, and like there really isn't much to be said.
No.
You know, there are very few teams whose playoffs get worse after they're eliminated. I think
Yes.
Colorado's is like that. No other team could get even more hurt watching what is happening,
100%.
And
I mean, just as a microcosm of everything, right?
mhm.
Uh, Cody Cece and Mikhail Granlund had more. Cody Cece and Mikhail Granlund have had more goals combined than Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle did in the playoffs.
Yeah. And,
Like, and those
this
were
was
what the two
Colorado's
best of.
series to lose. You were
Yeah,
right. This
hundred
is
percent.
no Heiskanen. Robertson was hurt. Like,
Yep.
these are two big pieces. And I get it. Dallas is a really loaded team up top, and they have probably the best offensive depth of any team in the league. But, like, that defense is not,
Yeah. No.
they don't have a McCarr and Taves on their first pairing.
Right.
Um,
Like, Thomas Harley's their best defense, and by the way, I think a
Super
lot of
underrated, by the
people,
way.
because you and I talked about this during Four Nations, right? About how
Yeah.
good this guy actually was, and like how people are going to see it during the playoffs. Well,
Yeah.
we're both being proven right now. Like, Thomas Harley's
Absolutely.
amazing. Holy, like, but yeah, it was Thomas Harley, Essa Lindell, and
You
then
know, they stepped up.
guys. But they stepped up, right? Like, and Jake Ottinger had a good series. I wouldn't say he had any like games where he stole them a win or anything, but he was as good as he needed to be for
But
the
he
team to
got
win.
better as the series went further, which is really
Exactly.
important. And we all know what type of quality goaltender
Yeah,
Ottinger is.
you can
Personally,
trust him.
I don't know if this is a hot take or not right now. Best American goalie in the league right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah.
yeah.
And then after that we had the Jets and the St. Louis Blues, which what a series that ended up being. It was the Connor Hellebuck show essentially, right, for both good and bad reasons.
Yep.
And then, Mark Scheifele's injury also played into it. I feel kind of bad for Jordan Binnington. Like, he
He had
really stood on
such
his
a
head.
good game seven. His
He was
team
so
sort of
good.
just left him out to dry there. They had a great start, and it looked like it was going to be all fun and
Right.
games for St. Louis. And but like the third period, this is just stuff that you can't really explain because
No.
it's not like Winnipeg played amazing throughout the game. I watched that entire game seven,
Right.
and all it took was just the last couple of minutes to push, and they get those last goals. Um,
Yeah.
the second goal, I don't know what to really say about that.
Yeah.
I don't blame Binnington on that. I'm on that last. I know it's a second
It's a
left, but that is
crazy
like
kick.
the
Like,
cleanest one-timer you could get. And it's
mhm,
Kyle Connor, and we know how much of a game breaker he can be. Uh,
right.
did Perfetti get the tip on the last goal? I think before heading into OT.
Yes.
Yeah,
Before
so
OT was a Perfetti. Yeah.
that was, not only is it just a blast from Kyle Connor, but to get Perfetti to tip it the way it went in,
Right.
just shows, like it was not Binnington's fault there, and
No,
he
not at
stood
all.
his ground in overtime, and the Jets came out flying, and
Right.
but St. Louis hung him out to
Yep.
dry for a bit, and eventually Winnipeg picks up the win, which had
Mhm.
they not, it'd be a fire sale and panic mode in Jets Nation, considering
100%.
how good this team did in the regular season.
Right. And like,
And
yeah,
yeah,
just to no, there's more to it, right? Because
yeah.
even for the Blues, like, I don't think Dylan Holloway didn't play a single game this
No,
series.
absolutely. And the fact that they pushed the President's Trophy winners
Yeah,
2-7 in overtime, especially
crazy.
because, once again, we did not think that the Blues were going to make the playoffs at points of the season.
No,
Yeah.
like they had to go on a 10-game heater just to get into the playoffs, right? And again, I would argue their best player during
Yeah.
that stretch, right, didn't even play a single game in the series. And like Cam Fowler having a renaissance all of a sudden, right? That was really cool to see too. I think he had like 7 points in 7 games or something. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that was really cool. And then well, what series am I missing? Oh yeah, Vegas, Minnesota. I'll be honest, this is the one that I didn't really watch too much of, just because, I mean, I had other things, but like it's tough for Minnesota, right? I think they now
Mhm.
own the record for like the most consecutive first round losses. It's either them or the LA Kings, but like, yeah, it was tough for Minnesota. They did battle, but I think their team, which
Mhm.
they kind of got screwed. They kind of got screwed in the standings just because of how injured they were, right? Like, I think Kaprizov missed so much time, Joel Eriksson Ek missed so much time, and like those are like arguably two of their best players, and it does suck, but at least Fleury got a nice send off, and they did push it, right? They did
Yeah.
push it. It was each game was competitive. Like, there wasn't
Mhm.
a single game in that series where there was any blowouts, right?
And,
So
and, and I think as a Wild fan, you got to see how bright your future is,
yeah,
because Kaprizov was phenomenal, and will probably be getting, you know, top five, in the league in terms of paid
easy.
contracts next
Oh
year. Him and McDavid both being number 97 going into free agency next year. That'll be a very fun time to see where those things go. But
yeah,
Minnesota's going to be coming off of some bad contracts, some
yes,
Zuccarellos, and they have a great young core. Boldy's
yep.
phenomenal.
The
Favors
buyouts are
great.
done too for Parise
Yeah,
and Suter, so it's gonna it's good, and they also signed up one of their better players to like a long term deal, right? I think Brock Faber recently signed a long term deal too,
yeah.
so like and they also got Zeev Buium who's coming up, so
Yeah,
no,
so
they're chilling.
it's not like they're, doing particularly bad for their team, and
Yep.
they've got a bright future ahead. Faber,
Oh, Jesper
Boldy.
Wallstedt too. How can we forget about him as like who's gonna step into the backup spot now behind Gustafsson?
And
Right.
Gustafson's a great starting goaltender. It's not
Yep.
like he's done his part. Like,
He was good.
one of the great things that not a lot of teams have in the league is having two really good quality starting goalies who can show up, right? And Wallsted's going to be the guy in the future, but they have Gustafson for now, which gives
Yes.
them time to not rush Wallsted into the
Not at
league
all.
if they don't need to. He could develop at a
No.
slower pace should he need.
Right.
Not only on top of that, you're gonna have a chance to sign guys.
Yep.
They're only looking better for now,
Yeah,
and
Brock
that's something
Faber.
that
Not
they
Brock
should be
Faber,
very
sorry.
proud of.
Not Brock Faber, sorry. Brock Besser, I think, is like a big rumor to go to Minnesota. I think he's from there too,
Yeah,
right?
which is huge.
Yeah, and like, no, even just to speak a bit on Vegas, right? The fact that like I think 12 different skaters for Vegas had
Mhm.
a point had a point in the series, right? So like their
Yeah,
depth really shined through. Uh,
yeah,
Also, like Pavel Dorofeyev missed the series, and he was their leading goal scorer. I don't know if
mhm,
he missed the series or not, but he definitely didn't play in all of it.
yeah,
So, like that was also like it just shows like they have guys who can step up, right?
yeah.
I
They
think it
have
was
the they
Victor
have the they have
Olofsson.
the quality there, and
Yeah.
they'll be better to come. And
Yep.
Vegas is a great, deep franchise. They've got
Yes,
stars. They've got winning mentality. So I wouldn't be too hard on Minnesota, but like they had a great start to the series. I feel like they had some chances to steal from them, but
absolutely.
what a
Like
tight
Aiden Hill
series
did
this was.
not play good this series. He
Yeah,
locked up. He
exactly.
locked in for Game 6, right? But Aiden Hill was not good this series.
Yeah,
Like, so it does feel like they fumbled a little bit, but no, Minnesota. I don't think they really have anything to worry about, right? Like, yeah, it sucks
yeah,
having like 8 straight consecutive first round exits or whatever, but you gotta look at this like situationally, right? So,
yeah.
it's good for them. And Vegas, again, they got the job done, right?
Mhm.
Even when their goalie wasn't at their best, they still did what they needed to do. They did enough, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely, and that sort of wraps up the first round for me in the
Almost.
almost actually. Wait, wait,
We
wait.
got a
We got the
series.
big one first of all. We already know what's coming up next. LA
What a
Kings
series, eh?
fans, for those of you out there, I pray for your well being. I pray for your sanity, and I pray for your health.
Yep.
Um, Talk to me, man. How did they do it again? They they
I'll
were
tell.
they
I'll
were
tell
up
you.
2-0. They had the series there. It looked like it was all going great. The
Jim
Philip
Hiller, man.
Deneau's the greatest center in the league or something like that. Quinn
Jim.
Byfield's the future. Darcy Kemper's gonna win the Conn Smythe at some point. Like
Yep.
everything looked great for them, and then Oilers did what
Hey,
Oilers do and
hey,
ruined.
it's like my buddy Thanos says: run from it. Sorry, dread it, run from it. No matter what happens, where did your failure
I
lead?
am
Back to
inevitable.
me. Exactly, right? But not like the
Break
thing
us
that really
down.
like surprised
Break
me
it
about
down
the
for us.
Kings, right? I know I butchered the quote, but who cares? Like, in terms of this series for the LA Kings, Jim Hiller's challenge is literally when the entire momentum of the series shifted. Because I was
That
there
was the
at that
turning
game.
point for me. I could see a shift in energy from that moment on.
Dude, I was at that game live, right? So like in the
Mhm.
energy in the building, first of all, like when Evander Kane got the goal in, I thought they were gonna call it off for goalie interference. But
Yeah.
then the review was to see if he kicked it in. You clearly could see that he didn't kick it in. And there after review, they ruled it a goal, right? So why
Mhm.
would you challenge for goaltender interference then? Like,
Yeah.
first of all, let's be honest. We all know how bad NHL referees really are, right?
Absolutely.
Like we
Absolutely.
all like even in that game itself, they missed so many different calls. Right, there's a trip on McDavid that wasn't called. There's a
Yeah.
high stick on Zach. There's a high stick on I believe it was Zach Hyman that wasn't called. Bouchard slew footed a guy. They didn't call that. Right.
Yeah.
There's interference on that McDavid did, I believe, to Quinton Byfield. They didn't call that. Like this isn't a one sided thing. Like that
Yeah.
entire series was terribly officiated. Right, and
Yeah.
that like why because right after he did that challenge 10 seconds later Evan Bouchard scores, it's 5-4, and then Connor
Absolutely.
Brown got 2 empty netters, like, and then game 4, right, sorry, and then game 5 I think is the best game the Oilers have played this entire playoffs, right? It was 3-1. They
Yeah.
basically shut LA down. The shot like that scoreline does not do that game justice. Darcy Kemper, I think he had like what 49 saves on 51 shots or something. It was
Yeah.
insane. Like he if Darcy Kemper was not the goalie, that would have been like a 6 or 7-1 game. It was that bad, right? And then game 6, you just knew, right? You could just see it.
Yeah.
And
Um,
yeah,
I want to know a bit of a random question for
hit me.
just to get in there. How was the crowd like at the game? Because I've been to a couple of playoff games this year. I've had the privilege
Uh,
of being in the building. I'll share my thoughts about the Leafs crowd in a bit, but
go for it.
tell me about
Go
how
for it.
things have been and what is because I could see on the broadcast how fun the Oilers crowd looks, but I just
Oh
want to
yeah.
know what it's like in the building
You know what it's like? Like
because they
I've
have a
said this
gorgeous
before.
building too.
Right. Like I'll say this before. Edmonton itself as a city, it's all right. It's not a lot to do here, especially during the winter time, right?
Pretty
But like
boring.
during these playoff games, oh yeah, no, it's pretty boring. We can just call it
Yeah.
what it is, right? Like
Yeah.
it's called Deadmonton for a reason, and I say that as
Yeah.
someone who lives here and loves this
Fair
city.
enough.
But like, during the playoffs, there's like no place I would rather be on earth. I don't know what it is, right? But it just feels different because everybody right? Even people who never flip hockey on once, right? You see everybody
Are
with like Oilers
dressed in
flags,
blue and
orange and
orange.
blue, and then like it's everywhere. Like every
Yeah.
restaurant, any restaurant you go to, they'll have the game on, no matter
Yep.
what type of cuisine or culture it is, right?
Yep.
And the crowds, it's just so loud and so passionate. It literally
Yep.
feels like ecstasy, right? It feels
Yeah.
like you're in heaven, like when you're
Yeah.
there. It's just and it was so crazy loud too. Like you can't hear the person next to you,
Yeah.
right? Like when Bouchard scored, I think the only time I've ever heard the building that loud
Well,
was when I think it was Zach Hyman scored in the Stanley Cup final. I forget which goal it was, but it's when Forsling basically ran into Bobrovsky on a breakaway and Hyman scored. It was in Game 6.
In 6, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know what it is or like why it's like this, but during playoff time and specifically during these games, there's like no place you would rather be than Edmonton, right?
And that's great.
Feels weird to say.
Yeah, and it's great because, like, for Toronto fans, we have the Rogers Center down the building.
Yeah.
For all our baseball fans out there,
Yep.
we still have the Raptors, and whenever they're good, the city's on it. So, like, for other
And
Canadian
it's Toronto. There's always stuff going on.
Yeah, there's always stuff to do here. But, like, other Canadian cities, like, I see the same in Winnipeg as well.
Yep.
When that team is in the playoffs, that city is all Jets all day. And during the postseason, it seems like that, like, for me, as a Toronto sports fan, I've been to the watch parties outside during Raptors games. I've been to the watch parties outside during Leafs games. Just from like the camera perspective, I want to go see the Winnipeg watch parties, and those look great. But moving on, though, any other things you want to wrap up about the Kings Oilers series before we move out?
I mean, Jim, I think that in great news for Oilers fans and in a more sad news for Kings fans, this isn't really much to do with the series, but it's recent developments. It looks like Ken Holland will become the GM of the LA Kings. And all I want to say is,
oh my goodness!
All I want to say is thank you, Kenny. I know you didn't do a lot during your 5 years here, but you got us Matthias Ekholm, and now you're gonna wreck this franchise. So I love you.
This is insane. But moving on out east, I'll start with the most boring series. We'll start in the Metro. Carolina took care of New Jersey pretty well. New Jersey got some guys back, but like no Jack Hughes. They were hurt. I thought this series was just going to be interesting because who folds first, Sheldon Keefe or Frederik Andersen, right? As a Leaf fan, like I was watching just for that dynamic because I wanted to see who folds first, and we got our answer there so far. So, good on Carolina. They took care of business. They looked like they were on a roll. Not having Jack Hughes absolutely hurts. Like the fact that he's an $8 million player, I believe that was his contract, right?
He should fire his agent.
Yeah, which is insane because you are like the heartbeat of that team. You are not only like just on the ice, but outside of the ice. Like Jack Hughes is one of those guys. Like he gives me like this is like the face of the league type of vibe. He's got the energy. I always think it's gonna be the Kachuk brothers because they have the personality. But I think besides them, like Jack Hughes has that personality.
And out of the Hughes brothers, let's be honest, Quinn Hughes. Great hockey player, not exactly the most
not the most charismatic guy out there.
Not the most charismatic guy, but Jack Hughes, like have you seen that? You seen the Gen Z NHL commercial, right?
Yeah.
Right. God, he's so perfect for that. Right?
Yeah.
When it's like we care about screen time, and then he's watching his own highlights, like that's something I could see him doing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And Jack Hughes, he's got the vibe. So like for him, it's not a matter of like, this is. It's just him being healthy and how much he could have helped the Devils, but the Carolina did what they needed to do and they took care of business.
Yep.
Which is
playing some beautiful, wonderful hockey. Just
wonderful,
so
hockey,
exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, which is what you expected. Good on the Devils for putting up a fight. I think they need to go into next year looking a bit optimistic, but like it's just about staying healthy. I feel like they have a great roster. Like to me, Jesper Bratt is phenomenal. Like he was the star for like Team Sweden during Four Nations, and just shows how just shows how useful he is on the ice and how much of a key player he can be. But like this is just just one of those situations where the better team took care of business, and I think that rolls into sort of the next series was just the experience and the age imbalance between Washington and Montreal. That series was one that also kind of was with quick work and taken care of easily. Good on Montreal for making the playoffs. They had one hell of a Cinderella run. I love their crowd. I love their energy that they bring to the playoffs. But like Washington was just the far more experienced team. They had the better regular season. They were the best in the East, so that's no slight feat.
No.
Logan Thompson was great. Their stars showed up. Ovi actually had a really good first round compared to how things went for him last year. So, Washington, once again, they did what they needed to do. once again, if I'm a Montreal fan, nothing to be ashamed of. Your team pushed it into the playoffs. You guys you guys had that fight. You had that grit to get in,
Right.
and a lot of people had the Capitals getting upset, and I was one of those people that thought that Montreal had a chance in this series
Right.
to sort of shock everyone. But once again, as far as what I'm seeing right now, uh, the Capitals are who they were in the regular season in that
Yes.
first round. We'll get to the second round in a moment, but they took care of business on that end. And what
Mhm.
do you got to say?
No, I mean that's pretty much it, right? Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I had the Habs in 7. I didn't think they were actually going to win, but I just needed a vibes pick, right? And like,
absolutely. That's all it was. It was
that's
vibes.
all
It
it
was
was. It was just vibes. I
yeah,
mean, I feel
yeah,
bad for Montembeau because like he was getting shelled like every game, right?
yeah,
I'm surprised.
absolutely.
Like
Yeah,
I think he played really well, and that's a guy who should be in contention for Team Canada, right?
absolutely.
So that's really good to see. I'm glad that Suzuki had a good playoffs. Patrick Lange getting scratched. I don't know if you remember that, but
Eh,
interesting development there.
yeah,
But hey, he's in a
Marty,
contract year,
Marty,
so
Marty.
he's
Yeah,
in a contract year, so
yeah.
just saying, right? And
Um,
no, I think Lane Hudson for his first playoffs did really well, right? I know Adam's gonna be happy to hear that.
yeah,
And yeah, shout out to David Savard. Apparently, I think he's retiring after this series.
yeah.
So good, yeah,
So
solid
great
career, right?
career, great
Still
guy.
remember him. Still remember him from those Columbus teams back in the day.
Perfect.
So like yeah, no, it was just a tough matchup for Montreal. Like you knew they weren't going to win, but the fact that they got to the playoffs and they finally took a step with this
And yeah,
roster.
like they were just riding a really good high of the
Yeah,
moment there, and that could only take you so far
for sure.
until you run into real competition, and that's where things sort of get interesting, and I think Washington did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
I'll let you take over with the Tampa and Florida series because that was shocking to me. I feel like
Well,
that was uh, obviously the West series were like all dog fights and they were all battles and there were some great storylines.
yeah.
I think out east, this was the storyline is how easily
I
the
mean,
Panthers dismantled Tampa and made them look foolish and just
yeah.
got into Kucherov's head
Well,
and
like,
they just did everything right. And I followed this series pretty closely.
yep.
Like they did not give Tampa anything,
No inches.
any room, no place to skate, no place to shoot. They could not generate chances. The goaltending was there, the defense was there. Um,
We're gonna talk about
Kucherov comes
Vashi.
back, healthy as ever.
Hey, are we gonna talk about Vasilevsky or?
Yeah, go for it. Take this.
I mean,
Yeah, let's see what you have to say.
I don't know, man. He's been looking kind of shaky in the past couple playoff runs, right?
Yeah,
Like even the series they lost, even the series that they lost against the Leafs, like he
yeah.
wasn't really that
He
good.
was outplayed by Sammy, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
and I mean, hey, look where Ilya Samsonov is now, right? I for
Yeah,
one hope that he does get into some games here.
yeah,
But no, in all seriousness, like I'm pretty sure I had Panthers in 5. It's just I never really trusted Tampa from the start. Number one,
yeah.
because as good as Kucherov is, right, he's more of a playmaker than a guy who can score, and he has not really done that in the last couple of playoffs too, right?
Mhm.
I think it's like it's 3 consecutive postseasons now where he hasn't scored a goal,
Yeah.
and
It's like 0 goals in like 14 games or
yeah,
something like
something like that, and
that. The stat was.
the thing with Tampa is a lot of their offense came from their power play, right? And in the playoffs, you're just not going to get those calls all the time, right?
Yeah.
And like again, besides besides Kucherov and Jake Gensel, right? Maybe Braden
Yeah.
Point if you want to throw him in there, but I don't really think he's that type of. They don't really have a guy who can just put the team on his back and score a goal, right?
Yeah. Like
Like
you
if
miss Stamkos
yeah,
in these types of moments too.
well, like the old version of Stamkos, not
Yeah,
like current
obviously.
Stamkos. Like I don't know. So like with Braden Point, right? Braden Point's an amazing player, 40 goal scorer, but he's not the type of guy to where if you just give him the puck on his stick, he's going to skate through 2 guys and score a goal, right? This is not the type of player that he is.
Yeah.
And it's just I feel like Florida number 1 their depth was way better than
Yeah.
Tampa's, right?
Yeah.
Like because I
100%. 100%.
who was it? It was Oliver Bjorkstrand who was injured for the first round, right?
Mhm.
So like that was like their big deadline acquisition. That he's a great player. He was hurt, and like I don't know if you saw Tampa's injury list, but like basically everybody had some sort of injury. Like Victor Hedman was playing on a broken foot. Ryan McDonough, who had like a resurgent regular season just
Yeah.
didn't. I think his age started to catch up with him a little bit, and he
Mhm.
was injured too. I'm pretty sure he had like a knee sprain or something. So
Yeah.
they just, I never really believed in this Tampa team, to be honest. And I just thought the Panthers, their depth is just better, right? Like
Yeah. They've got
fundamentally,
4 lines of just come at
yeah,
you shift after shift after
right,
shift. The defense can do the same basically,
yeah,
and they've got really solid
like
goaltending to wrap it all up.
right, and like Seth Jones aside, right? Who I don't really like Seth Jones as a player, right? And I think Chicago Seth Jones is more of who he actually is than the one that we saw in Columbus, right? Because
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Even this playoffs, he hasn't been great. He hasn't
No,
been
not
great.
at all. And
Not he's been terrible, to be honest. Like
yeah.
reminds me a lot of another $9 million defenseman who signed a contract that year. But
Yeah.
like no, even with Florida's decor, right, I think Nico Mikkola has really has stepped up and kind of carried Seth Jones in a way.
Mhm.
Ekblad is yes, I've been there. It's all good. Uh,
Yeah. Back to what you're saying.
yeah, no, like I just think like with Florida's decor, they did a good enough job to suppress the forwards and it's the Florida forecheck though, right? That's really like the main problem for teams, and
Yeah.
they've just been killing. They just killed like the rest of Tampa's lineup too. Because outside of that first line, right, where is the rest
Yeah.
of that depth scoring really coming from,
They're,
right?
they're not the championship teams from
No,
years past, They're not the same team from prior, years.
no,
And I think that sort of
hundred
shows
percent.
in how their depth shows up. Not only that, I made the mistake of picking Tampa, but simply because I did not know how healthy the Panthers are going to be. They were
Yeah,
stumbling into the playoffs and they looked hurt. A bunch of their stars are out. Ekblad had been out. Barkov had been out. Kachuk hadn't played since Four Nations. And to me, if you had gotten him, I didn't know what status he was going to come back in, but if you had gotten Kachuk at 80% of what he would have, what he is, I would have picked the Panthers to go right away. But he came
right.
back; he was completely fine. He is still the
Oh yeah.
dog that he is,
I
and
mean, yeah, 100%. Like hundred
yeah,
percent.
and how guys like them show up, how guys like Marchand show up in the
Yep.
playoffs. One of the crazy things is I you know, I don't think people are giving enough credit to that third line with
Yep.
Lusterin and Lundell and Marchand because I think they have showed up phenomenally throughout the playoffs, and we'll get into this once we talk about the second round.
Yes.
Um,
It
but
won
they
them the
have been
playoffs last year. I remember because last year was Tarasenko as the third guy on that line. I remember it very well.
yeah, and
Right.
Tarasenko's a great offensive player, but he doesn't have the two-way play that Marchand does,
Well,
or
yeah.
like sort of that grit that Marchand does. Tarasenko's just more of a pure
Right.
offense guy.
No, absolutely. Like, because I remember, like, with the Panthers and that they're because, like, I think I talked about this too when we did on intermission, right? Like, Listerine
Yeah.
and Lundell, those got that third line against the Oilers' third line last year really like killed their matchup, right?
Mhm.
And last year, it was either Tarasenko or Evan Rodriguez, depending on like the matchups and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then this year they got Brad Marchand, who's like in all honesty, he probably should be playing on the second line, but I think just
Yeah.
to spread out depth, they put him on the third line. That third line's been killing everybody. Like
Mhm.
you can put them on for like an ozone shift and ask them to play 2 minutes, and you're not worried at all.
Yeah.
Like
And
crazy.
one of the things I wanted to sort of say before we wrap up is like before we get into the last series and move on to the second round.
Yes.
The Panthers even like the coaching matchup I thought between Maurice and Cooper was going to be closer, but it just seems like Maurice knows his team right now, like
Yep.
exactly he knows exactly how to exploit the other team's weaknesses, and he knows exactly where to push their buttons.
Yep.
And in that sense, I think they were able to outcoach
Yeah.
their way into the second round, which made things easier. He got the matchups that he wanted. Uh, Moving on, Battle of Ontario,
Yes.
great to see that again. Phenomenal stuff once again. Good on once again another young team that should be very happy with their effort.
Hmm.
Ottawa, Toronto goes up 3-0, looks great in game one. I think that was just sort of like the
The nerves getting to them,
Sens,
basically.
letting the nerves get to them and not being ready for the moment. Uh, but game 2 and 3 could have gone either way. But I was in the building for game 2.
Yes.
I saw that pressure. I saw that stress. First of all, anyone who says the Leafs crowds are sleepy, they have been great this playoffs. Not every
Yes, they
time.
have. Yes,
Some
they have.
some game, that game 5 in the first round, where they got shut out for nothing. I could feel the tension through the screen. But I was at game 2 for the first round. That
Yeah.
overtime pop was one of the loudest I've heard that building, and I'll get into the crowd later.
Yes.
But that was great. Those games could have gone either way, so it just kind of shows how tight the playoffs are. And I think the Sens are gonna be built for the playoffs. Brady Tkachuk got better as the playoffs went along. Allmark started to find his game back a little bit. Sanderson's like a legit number one defenseman. Like having him and Shabbat there
Yep.
is great. Dylan Cousins, I feel like could have. The players I noticed the most, like from the Sens, were like Greg was like becoming that like snarky guy. Like he
Right.
became the Leafs killer at some points, in the sense that like he was like the DeBrusque for us in this series, and how he plays. So like Ridley Gregg was great. Brady Tkachuk got better as the series went along. Tim Stützle, every time he touched the puck, terrified me. He is so fast, and he loves scoring against the Leafs and everything. And for I don't know what it was, but there were parts of the series where he would just fly across the zone, and I was like, yeah, he's gonna score for sure. He's just gonna like cruise it and walk in and just take it, right? But the Toronto held on. Stolar's played phenomenal. The series got a little tight, but we have Max Pacioretty for some weird reason becoming like a hero in Leafs Nation. Who would have thought?
Montreal. Former Habs captain Max Pacioretty.
Exactly. Number 67 getting the deal done for Toronto in a very tight game. And our stars showed up, and they played pretty well. Matthews has been sort of the storyline, but we'll get into that. And I think Toronto did what they needed to do. I had Toronto in 6, and they won in 6. They could have taken care of business earlier. Game 4 was really close and could have gone either way, but but Ottawa pushed it. They had Toronto give up a stink in game 5, but Toronto closed the series and they got it done. And, let's move on to the second round. With that being said, I want to start with the Carolina-Washington series because I haven't followed that as closely as I would like.
It's okay. I haven't either.
Yeah,
I'll be really honest.
But, from what I've seen, it's just more of Carolina just doing their thing and keeping
It's boring hockey. I'll say that much. It's
just been Carolina hockey, and they're up 2-1 in this series with some very tight games. Carolina won game 1, 2-1 in overtime.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems exhilarating.
Which is like playoff. That's Carolina hockey, if you ever tell me. And they're just they're just playing their style. Game 2 was 3-1 Washington, and then game 3 was 4-0 for Carolina. So like they're just playing that defensive system pretty much and
just like throwing pucks on net from wherever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, basically. And I feel like, I saw some highlights from the series, and it seems like Tom Wilson's been trying to get himself involved in the series by trying to sort of target the Canes physically, but they play such a system and such a cohesive like unit that they sort of don't need a rough and tough guy to sort of match up with Wilson. They could just play their style. And as good as the Washington Capitals were, it's starting to see like this is where they sort of, if you can shut them down offensively, you could limit their chances. Like, Carolina doesn't need to outscore them in a run and gun type of game. When you slow the pace down, that's Carolina's style of play. And
exactly,
that's just been sort of their series so far.
Pretty much. Like I'll just pretty much
pretty much.
Said, right? I'm like I'll be real with you. I haven't really watched this series that much. It's been how do I say this? Low event hockey, let's call it.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
It's okay. I mean, like I think whoever wins this I think whoever wins this series is going to end up losing to either the Leafs or Panthers anyways.
Yeah, exactly, right. So and I think this is both of these teams I don't think can compete against the other two teams in the East.
Not at all.
But we'll get to that series in a second. I want to talk about Jets and Dallas because that series is really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Like, the West has delivered in the playoffs so far in terms of their series, and this is just sort of continuing the trend. The Jets need to stop allowing goals like really quickly, like back to back to back. You know, like they need to stop doing that. they need to figure out a way to like not allow Mikko Rantanen to become like like an alien basically, because he
Yeah.
is a man possessed right now, and
No, he's
every
killing it.
game he shows up, like this is what I meant. Every game that he continues to show up in these playoffs, and not only show up, like he is single-handedly putting a really good contending Dallas team like on his back when
Yeah.
there's enough talent on that team. Like your first
Mhm.
line is Hintz, Robertson, Rantanen. Like what do you do? How do you stop that?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Ideally, if you're the Jets, you would want to match them with like your third line. I think it's like Appleton, Niederreiter, Lowry, right? Or
Yeah,
Brandon Tanga, or Brandon Tanga, Niederreiter, Lowry, like some combination of those four guys. But like,
absolutely.
because that's probably their best defensive line, right? But I feel like
Yeah.
the problem is for Winnipeg. Number one, I think Connor Hellebuck needs to be better, right? Not better, but just needs to be less inconsistent. I'm not expecting him to be like the greatest goalie in the world because it's unfair to
You
expect that all the time. But just be consistent, man.
But
Like
like
give your
you
team a chance
expect
to
him to
win.
play far better than he is right now. And
Oh,
and I
100%.
don't think it's unrealistic to expect him to be otherworldly because he did that all season
Right,
and
right,
he
right.
commands that type of respect. So like I think to expect him to be otherworldly night in and night out in the playoffs is unrealistic, but you could sort of put him on a pedestal where he
Right.
should be the type of goalie that could not only steal you a couple of games but potentially steal you a
Hmm.
series. Like
And you know what? In game two, he did. He was really
yeah,
good.
he was shut out great, looked amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Made some crazy saves too. Like it was perfect,
yeah,
right? And
that game three is gonna stir a lot of heads with that game winning goal.
yeah,
Um,
was it a
what
kick?
are your
Yes.
what are
Should
your
it be a
thoughts on
goal?
that, first of all? Because obviously NHL refs are just so good at everything they do.
Hey,
Never make
West.
any mistakes,
Nope.
no issues with
Never.
inconsistency ever.
Never
Um,
been. I mean, no, there's definitely. I mean, this is a
yeah,
Petrovic goal, right?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
So was it a kick? Yes. Should it count? No, because according to the rules that the NHL wrote, even if a kicked puck deflects off a goaltender's stick, it's not a goal, right?
But
We read the
they'll
goddamn
allow
rules. But like
and
they just the thing with NHL refs, right? You can never you can't expect the refs to give you a win, absolutely. But at the
yeah.
same time, though, you shouldn't be in you if you should not be in a position where a ref's decision is going to dictate the outcome of the game, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
like I'll say this even for my team, when we complain about refs, right? As bad as they are, we know they're bad. You can't
Yeah,
expect them to do their
and,
jobs,
and,
right?
and this isn't your first time in the playoffs. Like for
No,
teams that consistently make the playoffs, you can't rely on you can't rely on officiating
no,
to
never.
go your way every time, and you can't expect them to hold the rules up consistently every time.
I mean,
It's
yeah.
they just sort of want to make the game as even as possible,
Like,
even when
look at
it's
Mason Marchman. Mason Marchman slashed an official. That, again, according to the rules, it's a 10-game.
where what was the call for that?
I can let me answer that question. So, according to the NHL, because it was not deemed to be an issue on the ice, there
Yeah,
is no call
yeah,
for that.
yeah,
Like, this is what I mean, right? It's so inconsistent, which is what annoys me about the rules. Like, whether they're
yeah,
good or bad or not, right? Just apply them consistently so that at least there's a standard, right? Like,
yeah.
even for the playoffs, this like for the suspensions, right? Like, yo, Nick Waugh literally cross checks a guy
In the
right
face.
in the face. Normally, that's like at least a 1-game suspension. I
Yeah,
don't mind the fine there, right? I don't think that should be a suspension in the playoffs, to be really honest with you, right?
yeah.
But at the same, and then I think Max Domi got a fine too, right?
$5,000 for
$5,000.
yeah, and we'll,
Right?
we'll we'll talk about that in a moment because I have a
Like,
lot to say about this series so far.
oh yeah, like, but again, right? And then you have Nico Mikola and the same, I believe it was Mikola or Kulikov, sorry,
Kulikov elbows
Dmitry
right
Kulikov.
to Marner.
Right, Elbows Marner, a star player, right? Whatever people
Yeah,
think of him, he's a star player in the league. He's one of the league's most popular players, one of the best, whatever, right?
yeah, and
If this is
in a one goal playoff game.
in a 1-goal playoff game, elbows him in the head,
Yeah,
nothing, right? Like, this is the type of stuff that really annoys NHL, like us fans, because I
yeah,
mean, yo, I'll be honest. Even if I was a Vegas fan, right after game two, I would have been pissed because Victor Arvidsson literally trips a guy in one of the most blatant missed
absolutely,
calls I've ever seen. Nothing,
absolutely.
right? There's 2 years ago, it was game six against Vegas. Matthias Ekholm got high sticked so badly he started bleeding. No call,
Absolutely.
right? even in the LA series, there was one where Quinton Byfield literally covers the puck with two hands, no penalty shot, and then there right, and then again, like I said, Bouchard literally slew foots a guy, no call. Like, if you're good, what are you calling first of all, right? And what is the
Nobody
standard?
knows.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
Like ever, you don't know if they're gonna call everything or you don't know if they're gonna call nothing, right? Like
And I think that's sort of been the issue here too. But like, once again, if I'm Winnipeg, this is still a series that I can tie and hopefully win.
right,
But like Dallas
I'm
just
pissed.
seems so well oiled right now. Like they're running like a machine.
Right,
They Pete DeBoer is if I'm Winnipeg, I can't let the series go 7, obviously.
yeah,
But imagine how hilarious it would be to have like Winnipeg Dallas game 7 and
right,
like a 9-0 record on the line for Pete DeBoer,
yeah.
which
The
would
guy who
be
can never, the guy who can never make it out of the conference final since like 2013 is also the guy who has the best record in Game
he just
Sevens
he
right
just
now.
needs to let he just needs to let every series get to 7. Like if Dallas Edmonton goes to 7 last year, Dallas takes it. Sure. Let's
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um
I mean,
but
I'll be honest. We did.
yeah.
The Oilers did not deserve to win Game 6. They had 10 shots on net in
Yeah,
that
and
game.
it was just the Andres show. It was just the Skinner show at that point. Imagine you
Oh,
guys could get that goaltending.
dude.
Moving down to the Oilers and Knights so far. Talk to me,
Yo,
Stuart Skinner, man, Stuart Skinner.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But
Stay in your crease, bro.
I
But
want to
like, talk to
I want
us
to ask
about
you
this
this.
series.
I want to ask you this as a not as someone who's not a fan of these teams.
Yeah.
How what's the word I'm looking for here? How cardiac is it watching Edmonton Oilers hockey? Tell me,
Uh,
is it like
it's it's the most fun and it's
oh yeah,
also the most head scratching at the same time. Like I like the Oilers are obviously they are gifted in the sense that like there's no other team in the league that can just sort of turn on a dime and become as offensively gifted as the Oilers. Like if they can score at will when they really want to, um they just don't seem to do it enough, I feel like.
they can even
But on the
defend like
back end, Bouchard's great. Nurse is great offensively. I can't trust them in their own zone.
no Darn we'll get to Darnell Nurse, but like
Yeah.
uh
How badly do you miss Ekholm? Is he still out? I believe he's still
yeah,
out, right?
honestly, aside from game 3, the defense has actually been pretty decent, right? Like
Yeah.
because like for somehow John Klingberg turned back the clock, right? I don't know,
Yeah,
like
where did he come back from? He looks great. He looked great in moments of the
because
series
like
so far.
basically what they've been doing, right? In like crunch time, the lineup it's always Walming and Bouchard, which they can both play together well, right? The thing
Yeah.
is, it's just trying to figure out where Darnell Nurse kind of fits, right? Like that's basic because whenever Nurse and Bouchard are on the ice together, right? If you look at their expected goal share, it's like 55%, whereas the actual is like 30 something, right? If you
No.
take Bouchard away from Nurse, both those
Yep.
numbers go up to 60 plus, right?
Mhm.
And if you keep Nurse away from Bouchard, it's like relatively the same. So it's pretty clear who's dragging the team down, right? And like
Yeah.
this is the third playoffs in a row now where Darnell Nurse is, well, shit the bed if you want to say it that way, right? And
Stay
it's
that
just
way, yeah.
like he's just the one piece like I'm not really sure, but even he's had his moments in this playoffs where he's been really good, right? I thought the first 2 games against Vegas he played really well. Like even game 5 and 6 against LA, he was amazing. Like the defense doesn't fully concern me as much. The thing that it's just goaltending at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Like out of those 4 goals that from yesterday's game, the only goal I'll actually give Stuart Skinner a pass on is the goal where it's Riley Smith's first goal where he basically dog walks the entire team and gets it
Yep.
through his 5-hole, right? Like
Yeah.
could he have saved that? Sure. But at the end of the day, if Riley Smith, no disrespect, is walking through your entire team, then you deserve to get scored on. I'm sorry.
OG
Right?
misfit Riley Smith.
Or would you misfit Riley Smith, right? And
Yeah.
then William Karlsson's goal, that's more egregious, I think, even than the last one. Like on
Yep.
William Karlsson's goal, right? All he has to do is hug the post, and that's an easy save. But it
Yeah.
just goes right between his glove and pad. Like
So
it's
so
stuff like
obviously
that.
Yeah, obviously game 4 is tonight, and the
Yep.
Oilers have a chance to take a 3-1 lead in this. Um, what do you think needs to happen for the Oilers to sort of like just shut down,
Simple.
not only just win this game, but like what do you need out of their guys for the rest of the series?
Simple. The thing they need to do, number one, on the offense is play more freely. I'm not really
Yeah,
sure what it is, right? I have no like data
yeah,
to explain it, but if you watch the team play in front of Pickard and Skinner, it's the
yeah,
same level of goaltending. Like Calvin Pickard hasn't been that great either, right? Like in
yeah,
terms of their quality, it's pretty similar. But what it feels like is that they just play a lot more loose in front of Calvin Pickard, and that
mhm,
allows them to actually get into their offense, right? Generate chances, be good on the forecheck, and be better defensively, right?
mhm,
Because
mhm.
the Oilers are a team who, if they need good offense to be good defensively, right?
Yeah,
Because the whole point of their defense existing is to set up their offense, right?
yeah,
Especially with their penalty killing too, right? Like
mhm,
if they play super tight and they like and they play like not aggressive and they just play like so like how I'm not really sure how to say it other than just play like super tight and like scared, right?
yeah,
Which it seems like that if they play like that in front of Stuart Skinner, you're going to lose every game because you're not going to generate any chances, right?
yeah.
Like the thing with the Oilers is they're not built to win 1-0 games. They're built to win 5-4, 3-2,
Run and
4-1,
gun
like
offense,
run and gun offense,
shootouts.
right? So you need to
Yeah,
do as much as you can to score as much as possible and to
yeah,
make it as easy as possible for Skinner to do his job, which you can only do by
yeah,
having the puck more and by limiting the amount of chances that your opposition gets, right? And Stuart Skinner, I don't even think he needs to be good. He just needs to be like below league average, right?
yeah.
Like 900 goaltending is all that's expected,
Mhm.
right? Even below 900 is fine as long as you can make a big save every now and then. And he had a couple on Tomas Hertl, but
Yeah, and it also seems like Pickard isn't making the same mistakes or doesn't feel as out of place in the crease as Skinner does. Like
yeah,
even though his numbers and his stats may not show that he's that much better, there's
mm-hmm.
just at least from the eye test and what I've seen, there's
yeah,
a sense of like just calmness and net with Pickard that isn't there with Skinner, who seems very very jumpy and playing really tight within the crease and,
he,
and not really sort of
right.
playing with that sort of level of confidence that I see the team play when Pickard is in net.
Right. I don't understand what happened too, because it's like this is the same guy who, besides like the Vancouver series, I thought Stuart Skinner was
Dragged you
actually
guys to the finals last year.
he was really good. Like even
Yeah.
in Game 7 against Florida, right? I know people blame him for giving up the Reinhardt goal. It was
But
soft, yeah,
it's a
sure.
2-1 game 7. Like
It's
there's
a
not much
2-1
to really
game.
say
It's a 2-1 game where Connor McDavid missed an opening. And I'm not putting that game on the
on
goalie.
Stuart Skinner. Yeah.
Like again, and he made great saves then too. I just don't know what happened. It's like I'll ask you this as a fan, right? Because you're a Leafs fan,
Yeah.
you'll understand this.
Yeah.
Going from last year to this year, right?
Yeah.
Does it not feel like the team just plays a lot more freely, regardless of
Yeah.
who's in net, because you have two good goalies?
Absolutely. And like, we'll talk about this in a moment, but like there's obviously a level of difference when like even last year in the Boston series, they were playing
Yep.
far better and far more confident in front of Wool than when Samsonov was in net. It's
Yep.
not like Samsonov was atrocious or anything. He was a lot more shaky in like the
Yeah.
net in the crease. He didn't seem as calm. Wool just sort of had that presence there. He was just a very steady goalie, and he knew
Yeah.
where to be at the right times. And he plays the puck a little more than I'd like him to, but Wool was still like
Same.
the
Same
guy.
with
And
Pickard.
he's
Same with Pickard.
yeah,
Like.
and but nonetheless, there's there's a level of urgency when it comes to certain goaltenders versus
Mhm.
others and how their team plays in front of them. It just seems like whether it's Skinner or Pickard, that like the team just sort of shifted sort of
Yeah.
energy onto on the ice and as to how they play. So obviously, great goaltending can go a long way for any contending team, no matter how good you are up front.
Yeah. And they actually have depth scoring this year too.
Yeah,
Every single Oilers forward that's played, that's going to change today because
yeah.
Kapanen's coming in for Arvidsson.
Corey Perry's doing amazing.
Corey Perry's doing amazing. Every single Oilers forward from last game has a goal in this playoffs.
That's amazing.
Like what? Again, the depth has actually low key kind of been like Leon Draisaitl. I know people aren't going to bring it up, but he's been pretty bad this playoffs, man. He's been pretty bad. Like
But if they win, they win, and
Yeah,
if you continue to win, no one's really going to complain. It's just
right.
when things go rough, you're going to start to hear the calls for him to
Exactly, right.
produce more.
And I mean, no, he should be producing more regardless. Like it's clear
Yeah,
it's obvious
it's
he's still
Leon
hurt.
Draisaitl. We have certain
Yeah.
expectations of
No,
him.
and it's so obvious that he's still hurt because if you watch him play, you can just see it, right? Like his shot's not the same, right?
Yeah,
He's taking a lot more wrist shots, which he doesn't really do. So
yeah,
like it's just it's not the same, right? And I think this is gonna sound really crazy. I think Evan Bouchard needs to have the best game of his life today.
yeah,
Because
and we'll see how things go tonight.
yes,
Moving on, and this has been the series that I think will get more attention in the next couple of games.
yep,
Toronto and Florida, we are
let's
tied
go.
at 2 apiece. Came out flying. I was at game 1. Best crowd I've heard, loudest I've heard that building.
Same here.
And apparently game 2 it was even better. But game 1, they looked that crowd. We were on it the entire game. It was amazing. I was so happy to be in the building.
It's
It was
nice to
such a
see,
fun
man.
experience.
It's nice to see because Toronto, I've been to Toronto. I know how, and like again, a lot of my friends are Leaf fans, right? I know how passionate they are. Right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
just
just
the building
very
always
corporate crowd,
shows.
most of the time.
Well, yeah, hey, the corporate crowd, shout
Yeah,
out to Ed Rogers.
yeah, and first of all, that crowd great to
Beautiful.
show up. Like no longer is the Leafs building a yacht club. Like I love their energy, I love their vibes. But one of the things I want to bring up in this series is they started off great. Stolarz looked phenomenal. We all saw what happened. Wool steps in, sort of calms the waters in game 1. I know they get back into it a little bit, but the the Panthers know how to, like, once again, part of it's Paul Maurice and part of it's also just their roster. They know how to push your buttons and they know how to exploit you. And I think what the Leafs did in game 1 and 2 and so far throughout the series is not sort of get rattled by the Panthers' physicality and their snarkiness.
Yes.
I feel like they've held on to that better than I'd expected.
Matthew Knies especially has been a very big part of that.
Matthew Knies has been phenomenal this playoffs. He deserves, Marner and Austin level money. Like, I don't care what it is. Give him everything that you were going to offer Marner.
He's gonna get a nice contract this offseason.
Yeah, I don't care. This guy is a certified stud. He is a game breaker. He has the physicality, he has the passion, he has the emotion, he's got the play. He is like literally getting up there and putting his elbows in Bobrovsky's face and getting in front of the screen and doing everything right. So like, God bless Matthew Knies.
He's the type of guy who, like, I think like Leaf fans, right? And I feel like they've been missing this player for a little bit. Like
Absolutely, yeah.
Like with Nylander, Matthews, Tavares, right? Marner, like I'm not saying they're like soft or anything, but they don't.
They are just not wired to fight back.
They're skilled guys, right? They're skilled guys, like, and that's how they wow the crowds. But they're not
it's
the type
not even
of guys
like
who are going to attack
just skill. They don't have it in them. They don't enjoy being like
getting in mucks and getting in.
Yeah,
mocks,
exactly.
like
they don't enjoy getting into the other team's heads the way that other teams do. Like Matthew Tkachuk, it seems like he just like even at the end of game 4, he was chirping at Nylander saying, "I'm going to come at you next game." Like, I want to see that type of energy from our guys. Like, it just doesn't seem like we do that, and that's where
now you have somebody who does.
Yeah, and we have, but it needs to come from our core guys. Like everyone talks about, Toronto needs to get tougher guys. Toronto needs to get tougher guys.
No.
We've had tough guys in this lineup,
and
like,
it doesn't work.
Is still there. I feel like he can be rough and tough. Like we have some good depth, big pieces.
Look at the D-core
stars to play with that level of urgency as well.
You want tough guys, right? Look at the D-core. Do any of those guys look soft?
No, the D-core has been such a good surprise, and Brad Treliving should probably win. If the Leafs go far, I would give Brad Treliving the contract because the revitalization of this D-core. No more Ilya Lyubushkin, no more Timothy Liljegren, no more Cody Ceci. We've got OEL,
Justin Hall,
we've got Tanev, we've got Brandon. Riley finally has a decent defensive partner that he can rely on. Like we've put this guy through the ring. He had to play with Justin Hall a few years ago as like his our number one D pairing was Riley and Hall. Like that makes me sick to my stomach at a couple years
Justin
back.
Hall was on the top pair.
He played on the top pairing with Riley for a bit.
Jesus Christ! Like, look,
Yeah,
I know,
so like
like,
we've been through it, okay, as Leaf
wow,
fans. To see that level of goaltending and that level of defense is such a sight to see.
they have
Now
no
I need the
excuses now.
offense to step up. The
Yeah,
story has been Austin Matthews. He has not scored in the second round in his career. He has not scored
no,
in the second round this year. I get the team. I get that he's playing hurt. There seems to be something going on, like a flu bug in
100%.
the
But it's
room.
the playoffs. It's the playoffs.
But it's the
Everyone's hurt.
playoffs, man. Like, you don't think the Panthers are playing hurt. You don't think other teams are playing hurt.
Yeah.
Game 3 was not even like game 4. Everyone's up in arms about it, how bad the Leafs played, and now that the series is tied. Game 1, we played better and we won. Game
Yep.
2, the Panthers played better, but we still won.
Yep.
Game 3, it was a very evenly matched game. Toronto did not get outplayed. We lost off of a very funny bounce that went over Wool's head. We could have easily won that game. I don't think as a Leaf fan, you should be panicked about that. This was our big stinker. And I know Leafs fans are panicking right now. And I know I've also been a part of that panic. I don't think this series is as over as it seems.
It's not.
My prediction is still possible. I had Panthers in 7. It still seems like a very likely possibility. These are about to be the most fun next 3 games that I'm about to see. I am so excited for game 5 because I feel like the Panthers are just going to come out running. First of all, I want to say, Sam Bennett, I hate you from the bottom of my heart. You're great when you're playing for Team Canada. Other than that, I never want to see you ever again.
That's
dirty
Leaf
little
Sam
player.
Bennett.
You took our goalie out. I know Oilers fans have their stories with the Panthers, so I'm going to hear your perspective on this as well too.
I mean,
but like Ekblad can't go a game without putting his elbow up everywhere and trying to run everyone into the ground.
yeah,
Bobrovsky this was the first game where Bobrovsky looked like himself. All the other games Wool has outplayed Bobrovsky, which is great to see.
Joseph Woll did not deserve that loss, man. I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. He was the only Leafs player that showed up. Stop by Wool was probably said more than anything else in that game yesterday by the play-by-play guys.
I watched the highlights for that game, right? I watched that. I see this level of goaltending. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad because I'm like, if we had
the Oilers get half that.
Forget this, bro. Get half of that. Like,
yeah,
we could, if we get Joseph Woll from game 2 after he came in cold,
yeah,
we would be right. Like, anyways, like, no, Joseph Woll is really good.
Yeah,
that's why like the best thing for the Leafs.
Like he's been better than Stolar. Stolar's was otherworldly at times. Like Woll has just been good enough to get us the wins. And this was the game where he showed up. He showed out. He stole the first 2 periods. The fact that the shots were like 4-13 heading into the first. End of the first. They had 4 power plays on us. We head into the second. We still don't play that good. We are up. The fact that it was 1-0 after 2 periods was phenomenal. This was such a winnable game for a Toronto team that did not deserve to win this game at all.
No, not at all.
Which gives me a little bit of pause, but these playoffs have been so unpredictable. I still think my what I was thinking stands. The winner of game 4 probably wins the series. Because Toronto, if they win game 5, they're gonna have to go. I feel like it's because line matching has been so important in this series. People want to talk about Matthews not scoring, and I get it, and I know that he needs to score, and I completely agree. They have done so good when they shut down the Barkov line. The one matchup that has been really good to see is the fact that like the Matthews Marner line was outscoring the Barkov line, and not only that, like on ice, like. Matthews was playing really good defense against Barkov. Like they were shutting them down well. That Florida third line though, Luostarinen and Lundell.
That's why they switched it, right? Because
have been a nightmare. It doesn't matter who they play against. They are on the ice. They are getting goals. Marchand is running laps around the Leafs at the offensive zone, and you could see their like creep sort of come back in from previous years. So that is always a terrifying sight to see. I'm terrified for the series, but I also don't think that it's completely over yet.
No, it's not even close to over. Like their lines, right? In particular, like with what they bought up with line matching.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna go to Lawton, Yarn, Croak, Lorentz.
Lawton, Yarn, Croak, Lorentz has been an amazing.
They should use that against Sam Bennett's line, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the ideal matchup.
Yeah. heading into game 3 or heading into game 4, the Panthers penalty kills like 6 for 24.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's not good. Like
The fact that out of the first 4 power plays, they only got 1 goal. And those power plays didn't even look particularly super dangerous.
right.
Lawton has been such a pleasant sight to see on the penalty kill.
Yes.
Like, what makes it so frustrating is despite how bad Toronto played, that still felt like such a winnable game yesterday.
And that's what it is, right? Like it's just
you had 2 Nylander breakaways. Nyes had a breakaway coming out of the box in the third period, and he almost had it there. He almost did.
Almost. Like
Yeah.
I still no. I think I still think it's. I think it'll be a 6-game series. I said Panthers in 6, so I have to stick to that, right?
Yeah.
Because like I've seen what this team can do, right? So I just trust them to win, basically, more than I trust Toronto to win. Yeah. But I'll say this though: if the Leafs don't win this series, right, they have no excuses anymore for the
absolutely not. No,
because like
regardless of what happens, even if they do win this series, I still don't think they're off the hook.
No, I mean if they win the series, you make it to the conference finals. I'm like, then you know what? Fine, right? Like I don't. Because
I'd have to see how they perform in the conference finals.
Fair. Like that's a different conversation, right? But I'm like, this is the best goaltending and the best defense I think, at least in my lifetime, I've ever seen. Like, from the Leafs.
This is the best goaltending and defense we've had in the Matthews Marner era. It's not only that, our offensive depth is better now. Like,
it's amazing.
Max Pacioretty has showed up big time. Scott Lawton had his criticisms heading into the playoffs. I think he has shut up a lot of haters.
He's been good.
Nylander's clutch game breaker. It just comes down to the two big guys, Matthews and Marner. Like, you have to be better. Yep. There's no excuse behind it. Like, you need to change the narrative because every time they disappoint, they're just reinforcing the stereotype that this team can't do it. And
hey man, $14 million, $14 million.
The fact that we were this close to having Rantanen makes it so much more painful.
Oh yeah, it's
imagine the first line of Nyes, Matthews, and Rantanen. Like, that could have been.
Oh, that's so cracked. Holy, that's crazy.
That really could have been.
But no, man, that's pretty much like. I think this and like Vegas Edmonton are probably the 2 best series just for like
absolutely
entertainment value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the winner of this series makes the finals out of the East, and I feel like the winner of that series makes the finals out of the East. As much as I love Dallas, and I think both of these teams have what it takes to make to the finals, like the Knights and the Oilers, and I think it'll be a fun playoff as we continue. But I think it's sort of time to wrap up. Thanks for coming on the show once again.
No worries. Always happy to be here.
Yeah, great discussion.
Yes, sir.
This will probably be uploaded in a bit, but thank you for everyone for watching. Click subscribe, follow the Instagram page. We will be going active on YouTube very soon and hopefully posting some clips more on video on Instagram. So
yes, sir.
Thank you very much once again, and we will see everyone later in the playoffs.
Yep. Peace out, y'all.
Yeah, peace out.